we have, I think I saw Carmen. Is Sydney here with a report?
It's Cordelia tonight, but she is here.
Great. Thank you.
Hi. So lately we've been working on our food drive for the months of January and February. We met our goal. We collected over 100 items that we're donating to the food bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. And we've also committed to doing drives for the rest of the year, including collecting dental supplies. So we're looking for like donations for toothbrushes, floss, toothpaste, and other materials. We also completed a park cleanup the other weekend, and we're spending this month to plan out other events. We've managed to plan out community service for the rest of the year, and we're looking forward to doing a park cleanup partnering with you guys, the Greenway Advisory Board. And we're also working on planning our conference, which is in spring. We received word that there's over 100 teens in North Carolina that are interested in going to our conference. So we want to make sure we can make this event as engaging as possible. So lots of planning going on there. So yeah, that's what's going on with RYC.
That's great. Thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Cordelia? Christina, go ahead.
Hey guys, I was wondering about your April egg hunt. Are you guys still able to do that, or what is are you still doing it?
So we actually are working with Abbott's Creek Community Center to put on an egg hunt event. And it looks like Ken has his hand up, so he wants to chime in. We're working with Abbott's Creek Community Center to put on an event. So it will be happening at that community center. So yes, we're working with them.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? No? Well, Cordelia, I'm so glad that you guys will be able, a few of you at least will join us for the Greenway cleanup coming up, the invasives removal that's on the Greenway. And I'll mention that in the chair report. We can talk more about those dates later on, but that's great. Let's see. Malay said, hi, can you all hear me? I have not heard you.
It looked like he had joined in as an attendee, so I just promoted him to panelist. So he should be coming in any second now.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Thanks very much.
There you are. Great. Thanks. Thanks for flagging that. Okay. Very good. Well, if there's nothing else for the Raleigh Youth Council at this time, then we will move on to our presentation. So we have a presentation tonight on the youth program that supports families when kids are out of school. So I'm just going to hand it over to Ken. Hi, Ken. Sorry, caught you off guard. Oh, you're muted.
If I take myself off mute, because I was waiting for the T. If you'd have said I'm going to hand it over to Kent, then I would not have been caught off guard. So no, it's okay.
I saw your name first, so
it is because I wrote the blurb. But please know you're not going to hear from me. But I am pleased to introduce Kent Hunt, who is serving as one of my interim superintendents, has been so for the past year. He's here with Beth Souls, who has been serving with youth programs for quite some time, as well as, must be on the other screen, I don't see him yet, Chase Sassy. And we're excited to give you guys an update on what we do with youth programs. I don't want to steal too much of what they're going to say, but think of summer camp every day throughout the year and how we do that across the entire city. So I'm going to turn it over to them. I hope I didn't pump it up too much, guys, but I have no doubt you'll be able to give them a ton of information. So we got a short presentation to talk about, and we'll be happy to take any questions that you have at the end. I get the easy questions, they get the hard ones.
Thanks for that introduction, Ken, and thanks for the opportunity for Beth and Chase and I to be here to talk about all the programs and offerings that youth programs provides to the youth of our community. Before we get started, Beth and Chase are here on our screen. They serve as program managers for our youth programs, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in and share my screen here. And hopefully y'all are seeing that
Not
now. Are you seeing the
And it's
full
coming.
version?
There you go.
We're good.
Are you seeing the full thing?
Mhm.
Full screen?
Yes, it looks like it's full screen. Yep.
All right, perfect. Youth programs is quite a breadth of programming that we have here. If I can, there we go. All right, so just to kind of kick us off, I'm going to give us a quick overview of what the program's all about. Ultimately, what we're here to do is provide safe and supportive programs during our out of school time. So that's everything from our summer camp season, but also our before school, our after school, and our track out programs. It focuses in two areas: summer camps, which originated from a free program model and has evolved over time to be run at 20 plus facilities throughout the city of Raleigh. And then we have our school-based programs that's developed as a need after the need arose to offer out-of-school type programming when Wake County Public Schools implemented year-round schools a number of years back. At full capacity, our programs were generating over $3 million in revenue, an average roughly 16,000 registrations annually, and that's kind of pre-COVID numbers. With the impacts of the pandemic over the last 3 fiscal years, we've been operating at reduced capacities, but we'll kind of get into a little bit of how we've operated over those times. But we've still been able to average over $1 million in revenue while serving over 10,000 registrations each year. As I mentioned before, we strive to provide a safe and supportive space for our participants in those out of school times to help develop into well-rounded citizens. One of the ways that we try to provide that safe and supportive atmosphere is through partnerships. One of our big partnerships is with the summer feeding service. Last year alone, in our 2020-21 summer camp season, we served over 18,000 meals to students or participants during the summer. Which is a little bit down from what we were doing pre-COVID, where we were serving around 50,000 meals over the course of the summer. Our goal with our programs is to help participants develop social skills, explore new interests, gain confidence, build resiliency, and things of that nature. And we've got a whole plethora of different things that the program provides, such as recreational games, field trips, arts and crafts, and different types of learning opportunities through things like food experiences, science programs, and things of that nature. Our youth program staff consists of 16 full-time staff and roughly around 320 part-time staff were employed in our program areas over the last fiscal year, which is a little bit, was still about half of what we were doing pre-COVID from a staffing standpoint. And our staff receive a minimum of 20 hours of training each year that's specifically designed for youth workers. So looking at things like child development, behavior management, resiliency, and trauma-informed care, activity facilitation, inclusion training to help our staff work with participants with disabilities or medical conditions. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's going into training these young workers to work with and support our youth in the out of school time. So I mentioned kind of previously, it really focuses into our two main aspects, which is summer camps and school-based programs. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth now, who's going to kind of walk us through a little bit more about the school-based programs. I mean, the summer camp programs, excuse me.
All right. Thanks, Kent. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for allowing us to come and talk to you about our programs. We're pretty excited to share what we do. I'm pretty passionate about it, so I could talk all night about it if you would let me. So I'll talk first about our Summer Express program. So that is like our traditional day camp program. It operates for 9 weeks in the summer between the end of the traditional calendar school year and the beginning of the next school year. Like, for example, this summer, it'll operate June 13th through August 12th. And like Kent said, our campers participate in lots of just typical camp recreational activities like active games, arts and crafts, again, you name it, typical camp activities. And then we also partner with other city departments and provide special activities at each of our camp. So for example, this summer, athletics will be traveling to each of our campsites and teaching the campers futsal. With these partnerships, we are able to introduce campers to activities that may not normally be exposed to outside of camp. And that's something that I'm, again, very just passionate about, is just making sure we expose campers to lots of variety of activities. So in Summer Express, we serve over 1,000 campers each day at 22 different community centers across the city. And in summer camp was quite a fun time when COVID hit. So Summer Express did continue to operate even when the world was living through a pandemic. There were actually very few camps across the country that even chose to operate, and none of our local municipalities operated in the summer of 2020. But a group of us spent lots of time and effort and created protocols that we could put in place to make sure we were keeping the campers and the staff safe, and we were still able to operate camp even throughout the pandemic. And we have continued to pivot and adjust according to the current COVID situation and guidelines to offer our programs throughout this entire time that we've been experiencing a pandemic. So outside of Summer Express, we offer some specialty camps, and one of our specialty camps is called Summer Explorers. And that is, we operate that program out of rental spaces. So we rent currently 2 Wake County Public Schools and Ravenscroft School to host those programs. And Summer Explorers is similar to Summer Express, other than it just offers these campers additional field trip opportunities, and they have more specialists that may come into their camp program. So it's just a little bit more specialty activities than a typical Summer Express would be. It is a higher fee than Summer Express, and that fee is to help cover the lower camper to staff ratio that we have in Summer Explorers and to cover the rental fees. This program serves 148 campers each day. It operates for 8 weeks, and that one less week is due to just the rental constraints we have from the vendors that we rent from. And our other specialty camp that we operate here out of youth programs is our very popular DigiCamp. That's our STEM camp. That camp is a project-based technology, digital education program. It's each day there are 4 different 3-hour sessions offered each week. And so the campers can sign up for a different session every single week. And then when the campers are not in their 3-hour digital lesson, they participate in recreational activities. Again, your typical camp activities, arts and crafts, food experiences, etc. So to give an example of activities that the sessions that the campers might sign up for, we have things like robotics, digital video production, EV3 Mindstorms. That's what you see there in the picture. It's called an EV3 Mindstorm. They get to program and tell that Mindstorm to do different things. We have coding as a session. Again, lots of different sessions they can choose from. Some choose to come 1 week out of the summer. Some sign up for multiple weeks at a time. And in this program, we serve 56 campers every single day in this program. And then this is a map of our summer camp location. So you see there on the left, there's a legend for where the different types of camps that I've just described to you are. Just want to point out where the green dot is, where it says that's for DigiCamp. There is a Summer Explorers dot underneath that. It's just that DigiCamp in one of our Summer Explorers locations is at Ravenscroft School. So the green dot is covering up the yellow dot also for Explorers, because they're both offered at that same location. That's one of our locations where we have 2 camps going on at the same time. And so that's all I have about summer camp.
So I'll hop back in, and Beth had kind of alluded to our work in school-based programs during the pandemic. And one of those one of those pieces for us kind of shifted what we were doing from a school-based programs world. Since school was not operating when we started out in August of 2020, we had to shift our operations and try to be able to accommodate for parents. So we created the recreation education centers, and we called them rec camps, that started in the fall of 2020 to help make sure that children had an opportunity to have a safe and enriching way to attend virtual school. We staff coordinated with parents to work through the class schedules and kind of understand when children needed to log on to be able to participate. And when people were not in virtual learning, participants enjoyed recreational activities that we had multiple specialists come in to provide. So this was kind of all a part of a fast partnership that our department was able to come into, working with the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, Marbles Museum, the Town of Holly Springs, Wake Ed Partnership, as well as the Wake County Public School Systems. And we were able to work through that. We also added remote learning days as the asynchronous days started to come into the schedule once students began back in the school. So it was a really positive program that we were able to offer that further kind of illustrated some of the partnerships within our own department by having those folks come in to provide service. Through our 11 locations that we opened up in August of 2020, we served over 3,000 participants. 50% of those participants received some level of financial assistance. And then we also had our program sites registered with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. And we were able to have the city and county approved to receive CARES funding to help us reimburse some of the costs for our fees. Because we actually offered we had a couple of different fees for the program, but the overall fee was $120. And then we had a reduced fee of $40 for folks that were receiving free or reduced lunch from their school. And then the CARES funding came in to help support the rest of that registration cost. So we did that during COVID. And then once schools started to get back in, we were able to transition into more of our traditional school-based programs, which Chase is going to join us to discuss now.
Awesome. Well, I am Chase Sassy. I actually grew up in Raleigh and went to our Summer Express program, so I can speak to the awesome benefits that it offers. I feel like a well-rounded person because of it. So I manage our school-based programs, and they encompass track out and after school and before school. I'll talk about our track out program first. So our track out program, the easiest way, Ken said it earlier when he was giving his intro, is that it is essentially summer camp all year long. So we try to provide high quality activities and learning opportunities for children who are tracked out of school or attending modified school. Track out school, or track out, if you're not familiar with it, every 3 weeks there's a group of kids or 4 tracks that offer. And someone tracks out for 3 weeks, and it happens 4 times throughout the year. So they need continuous childcare offered year round, which is what this program kind of came out of. We offer it at 4 locations. So it's at Barwell, Briar Creek, Lakeland, and Marsh Creek. Currently this year, with our lower numbers due to some of our COVID restrictions and trying to be mindful of some guidance, we serve about 120 participants daily across those 4 locations. That number fluctuates some depending on track. For example, track 4 closely lines up with like a normal summer break. Parents seem to love that one, so our track 4s are always pretty heavy. Some of the things that I think make this program really special is that there's a heavy emphasis on keeping our participants engaged and learning during their breaks so that they don't lose that stuff they're learning while they're in school. And we do that through a variety of programs and things that we offer. Some of our curriculum has been touched on a bit already, but it's arts and crafts, drama and dance, food experiences, specialist clinics, science and nature. We try to rope in some educational elements, but at our heart, we are a recreational based program. So we want to do it and have fun while we're doing it. A great example of something I think we offer that sticks with me is within the last track, we took kids ice skating as a field trip. It was something, it's really rewarding every year when we go, because you have a bunch of participants who have never been ice skating, and maybe it's because their parents have never been ice skating, and they get to walk out on the ice a little scared. They get to have some fun. They get to believe in themselves. They get to have some fun at the end of the day. And now they've tried something that they will forever know that they did. And offering those kinds of activities is what makes the Track Out program pretty special. Our before and after school programs provide essential childcare for parents during the week. We encourage them to be active. It is recreational based, and we try to have a lot of fun, keep them moving. But we do offer supervised homework time. We are with them. Essentially, the program after school runs from about 3 to 6:30. At our various sites. We offer it at 8 locations. And so we do want to be mindful of helping kids get some homework, and we supervise that. And I can tell you firsthand, their homework is getting tough these days. We maintain partnerships with Wake County Public Schools to offer these at our locations at offsites. We have 5 of those locations where we come directly into the school to offer these programs. Some of our partnerships, kind of an example of that would be that we'll work with the principals pretty closely to help them with their special events and maybe fundraising opportunities. So if a school is having a family fun night, we'll work with them to offer a fun game and interact with their school and become a part of that network. We serve about 250 participants daily and before school. So at 6:45, we're up and at them. The program runs from 7 a.m. to roughly 9 a.m. And they walk in ready to go every morning. I don't know if you've ever dealt with 60 kids at 7 o'clock, but they are very excited to be there. And then in after school, we serve around 440 participants daily. So that's every afternoon. We're engaging with them. I think my highlight that I would say really is what sticks with me about this program is that we have an opportunity to have an impact on our participants before they go to school and then directly after. So it leads to some really cool opportunities for engagement and building relationships with them. Monday morning, for instance, I was out helping out a before school site, and I was helping a participant. He was a little nervous about a presentation he had to give at school. So we were going over it, practicing it. I'm like, "You're going to kill it, man." Get to give him a high five when he leaves. And then when he comes back in the afternoon, we get to say, "How'd your presentation go?" He killed it. So it's those kind of opportunities are really special to leave an impact on the participants we work with. This is a map of our before and after school offerings. You'll see there's a lot of green in the middle of your map. Those are free after school programs. They're called CAPS programs. They're offered at our City of Raleigh community center locations, and they're managed by the community centers themselves. And then you'll see the other offerings are the before and after school programs that I was referencing. And then Kent touched on this earlier, but it's also just something we're really proud of. Is our financial assistance program that the City of Raleigh and Parks and Recreation is able to participate in. I won't hit all the numbers for you, but just last year alone, you can see that in school-based programs, so that's Track Out after school, we were able to offer $123,000 in financial assistance to help participants attend our programs. And then the summer camp financial assistance is around $76,000. That's a really great thing because the whole point of our programs is to have an impact on our participants and give them something that will help them. And so we don't want financial aspects to be a barrier in them attending. So it's fantastic that we're able to work so closely with our financial assistants to make it happen. And we appreciate you guys. I'll say thank you since I might still be on the screen. Appreciate the opportunity to share the work we do. It's very meaningful for us. And I know that I speak for Beth and Kent that we enjoy it. So thank you guys very much. If you have any questions, we'd love to see what we can answer for you.
Thanks, Chase, Kent. Beth, everyone. Thanks for that great, thorough report. Malay, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jennifer, thanks. Chase, I had a question. The numbers that I saw around the financials, if you can bring that slide back up, in fiscal year 2020 and 2021, the numbers were decreasing for the school programs, and I wanted to understand what were the drivers behind that?
So I'll give my answer, and then Kent and Ken, if you guys have a better answer than what I'll give, is that I believe that's simply the programs that we offer at the time. We might have had less offerings as we enter schools based on availability. And sometimes they decide to go with the YMCA or offer their own program. So the program offerings that we have do vary year by year based on where we're able to find space and offer them. So it could have simply been lower participation based on lower offerings.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll add specific to the summer camp for FY20, that also was impacted due to back in those days we were taking registration March of 2020, so that would have been applied to those registrations that we took place for that summer that we had that initial COVID kind of shut down, less registration. So that also impacted the numbers for that year, because that would have been June 2020 when we were taking those registrations, and we had reduced capacity. It looks like Ken's got something too.
Well, I just want to throw in, and so simply the numbers, so we're talking specifically about financial assistance is driven by, one, the number of requests for people who need it. School-based is the year round, but 20 and 21 are specifically impacted by COVID. So when we took camp registration on March 1st, I apologize, of 2020, we had 15,000 campers registered. And then we got into a government shutdown. So the fact that we still served, I want to say it was about 9,000 participants over a 6-week summer. That was just the financial aid that was needed for those participants that came through. We started to rebound in 21. So you're starting to see some of those numbers come back up, but they're really just influenced by the number of participants we've had due to the COVID registration.
Beth, can you also share, we have the number for what it was before pre-COVID as well, what it was supposed to be, if you have a second, if you have that with you. Because I want to say that number was closer to 55,000 was what we were anticipating from a financial assistance standpoint.
Yes. Pre-COVID, what we were anticipating for summer camps was 44,363. And then we ended up with 7,000.
Thank you very much for the explanation, guys. And thanks for the work that you guys do.
You're welcome.
Dave, you want to go ahead?
Yes, same. Congratulations and big thanks. Our kids, I don't know, we've probably been to 10 or 15 programs around the city, ended up spending summers at Method and work days at Chavis because the crews at both of those facilities have just been awesome. My kids love it. It's hands down the best deal in Raleigh. Price and quality of care that you get. Such a good job. Recommend it to everybody.
Thank you.
Dave. Christina, do you have a comment or question?
Yes. I have 2 young ones that are 1st and 2nd grade, and I'm wondering about your wait list, because we have not been able, and I know that COVID has affected it, but I'm just wondering, what does your wait list look like and how can I get in? I'm super.
Kent, you want me to take this one?
Sure, that's all you.
So I'll give you some insider trading. You're always number 3 on the wait list, Christina. No matter what you are, you're number 3. The challenge that we have is really space, and Dave nailed it. It's an incredible program that we offer at a very reasonable cost, and we do that on purpose. Every kid should go to camp, and every parent should have the opportunity with cost to not be a barrier to be able to provide services. I will tell you, one of the slides that we're most proud of on that screen was the last one. And when Ken talked about our remote learning centers that we did during COVID, that 50% of the participants were receiving some level of financial assistance, which tells me then that we're providing the service that our community needs. Now, the Hart Park Christina were really popular. And obviously we're popular in different areas. So we can tell you, Scott and I have done this several years, is we can tell you driving patterns. We've mapped participants, and we can usually see, oh, look at the drive down Capitol Boulevard and down here. And so that's where you would typically see our camps fill up. And that's a lot of what the work that Beth and her team has done over the years, is where can we find other sites to be able to offer camps. So we've done things like rent churches. We've mentioned renting Wake County Public School System, but that just comes down to the challenges of what our resources can do. So this year I'll give you a sneak peek on when registration's coming, so you can be ready. But the other one is I would offer, don't always worry about geography. I know for traffic patterns and things like that, and where you're traveling are inconvenience, but Beth and the team do a fantastic job of summer camp. So you're going to get a quality program no matter which one of those 20 sites that you pick. And like Dave said, we want you to move around, because you should get a different flavor, even though you'll still have that same consistency from site to site.
Awesome. Yeah, my kids are year round. They go to Briar Creek Elementary, so that's always the first camp that I'm looking at, and you guys are always booked. So yeah,
that's a whole different thing. Briar Creek has always been a hot commodity since the day we opened it.
Yeah,
so you're right. So I apologize for talking this long, but back in the day, we had people who would camp out overnight to register for Briar Creek. That's how popular it was. And Scott's nodding his head, so I'm going to blame him, because he was one of the originators of the program with Beth, probably 12 years ago, when the school system went to year-round schools. Scott, I had to draw you into the conversation.
Sounds like you need another location up there at Briar Creek.
Well, we do, and we have a year. Well, Briar Creek, what they did in Christina is they opened up a traditional calendar school, which is Pleasant Grove. And so we offer before and after school at Pleasant Grove. The other one we've done is Lake Lynn is pretty close, and to take capacity off there, we're at Sycamore Creek, which is just up the street to offer before after school. And this is where I get to make my plug. If I get more resources to get more staff, we can serve more kids.
Awesome. Well, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Rashawn, you were next. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to state that it was a phenomenal presentation, and that Chase, I can totally relate, dude. Reminiscing just like he was with the before and after school programs. I used to work at Method for a very long time, and I can clearly and literally say that the CAPS program is by far one of the best after school programs that I've ever been a part of. I think it's another one called TOPS too, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yep. So
yeah,
both
TOPS
of those
is our teen program.
Man, it's amazing. I just sat there and, was a participant of it. Actually helped, with a lot of the kids coming in the CAPS and TOPS programs when I was at Method Road. And those programs literally saved a lot of those kids' lives over there in that community. So keep up the good work. I love what you guys are doing, and I just think it's phenomenal. So
thank you. If you want to come out and visit us sometime, I made a sweet bracelet on Tuesday. So I'm honing my skills.
I'll definitely stop by. I was at Method not too long ago, probably last month. So I'll definitely swing by again.
Thanks, Rashawn. Beverly?
Well, I'll just add my 2 cents. I mean, it is an incredible program, and I wish more people knew about the services that are offered. I have a couple of questions on the financial assistance. I know we've had prior presentations on the Play It Forward funding, and I know the City of Oaks Foundation does some funding for camps. Is the other financial assistance, does that come as a city budget item, or do those two programs cover all the financial assistance? And what are your gaps there?
I just wanted to make sure I'll take it. I just want to make sure anybody else didn't want to jump in there first. 2 different plays in there, Beverly. So summer camp, the way we run the financial assistance model there is we actually, through like City of Oaks and the Pay It Forward, that's raised money to offset the cost for the person. So I'm going to pick on Beth. Beth can't pay the full price of $70 per week. I think that's what we are. I should know that. So we may reduce it by 50% through our Play It Forward or our scholarship program. We'll actually take that $50 per week and make the program whole, which is really great. So from a revenue projection perspective, that's not a budget item. When we set a revenue projection for our summer camp registration, we still put forward that Beth paid the full price. It's just it's coming from another location. I'm going to pause there because one of the best things that's happened for us organizationally is Chris Haggerty and the work with the City of Oaks Foundation. And he is so passionate about raising funds for that. And then you guys have probably met Debbie. And if you can't find anybody more passionate about helping people than Debbie Houston. If you're ever looking for a way to raise money, just invite Debbie and she'll get you what you need. The other side of it is our school-based programs. And I will tell you, it's not budgeted, but it is. So that is actually revenue that comes off the top. So in that case, because that's a year-long payment that somebody's making, and Debbie still goes through the same process of sitting down with the client, understanding what they can and can't do, looking all the required forms, and then working with Helene, they make a decision on what the reduction in the cost is that they would pay. But we identify that as part of our budget, excuse me, in terms of assistance that we provided. So like that $100,000, when we set our revenue projection, we can build off of some trends. We know how much that's going to be. And so we identified that to the budget office that we made $2.2 million, but it would have been 2.3 if we had not given $100,000 worth of financial assistance. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It does. And I have one other question. We're now at a point with vaccines for COVID, and we know the numbers for children are not quite where we would like them to be. Is that something you all will think about as part of the summer program to make it easier for parents to have days where you partner with, Wake Med or whatever to offer vaccines? I'm not going to go to the issue of requiring. That's not my question.
No, we can. And so that was really a lot of the fun the first year. And I do say that was fun, was we built great partnerships with Wake County and with Wake Med, where we were doing testing. So remember that first summer we were offering testing at our sites. The next year we were offering vaccine at our sites. Really what we've gotten as I've reached out to both organizations is, do you still need remote locations? And the reality for a lot of those are using contractors is much like us, is finding the staff to staff those facilities. And that's why a lot of Wake County's efforts were located at their spaces where they already had offices, and they knew that they could have confidence in staffing them. But we've got an open agreement with both Wake Med and Wake County Health and Human Services to help however we can.
No, and I guess part of my question there was trying to encourage greater level of vaccination for the participants.
We don't get into the you should or shouldn't. What Kent didn't probably articulate to the depth that he could have. When we developed our COVID protocols the first year, we worked with the Strong Schools Toolkit, which I know, Beverly, you're very familiar with, the DHHS and the CDC. And Kent and Beth can probably correct me. I don't know that we've had a cluster yet come out of one of our spaces, which means I'll have one next week. But we can both go back to, it was like January 6th or January 11th of 2021 was one of our most horrid days. It was right after we came back from the holidays that first year. And I did have to close 2 programs on that day, but we haven't had anything by the Wake County definition that's ever been considered to be a cluster, because we were that intentional about trying to mitigate risk the best we could throughout the pandemic, and super proud of the staff of what they've done and how we've been able to work through that. So we love it when we talk to parents and they say their kids are vaccinated. And if they ask, you're bringing your kids into a group with a bunch of other kids, just like school every day.
Great questions, Beverly. I have a couple, and if anyone wants to kind of mull on some more thoughts. So one is, how do you decide which schools you partner with? Is it something where they show a need? Because I know with my kids, the before and after school is done by the Y. not by the city. And so I actually didn't realize that you guys go into schools for before and after care. So that's interesting.
Beth, I'm going to give you that one. I've talked enough.
Chase was ready to go too.
I think Chase
was ready too. All right, you guys go for it. I'll be quiet.
I was going to say it's a little bit of both, to be honest. Sometimes we are solicited from schools saying, hey, I've heard from my friend who's a principal at some other place that you do an amazing job. Are you guys interested in offering a program here? We also actively look for new schools when they're opening to try to get in. I will talk no junk about the why, but we try to get in before they do. And it's a competitive marketplace between that, and some schools offer their own programs. So it's really whenever the opportunity arises, and if we have the capacity to take on a new school at that time is sort of how that works out.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about camp, how you consider it for camp?
Yeah, same thing. In that we really try to look at where's the need, and then the hard part is, can we find a space that is willing to accommodate us? So pretty much every year I'm in contact with various schools and talking to the principals and saying, hey, would you be willing to let us rent your space and have camp? And sometimes we run into some principals who are, yes, we'd love to have you, but we have renovations this summer, or I've just been told I'm having to run summer school here, or we're doing a reading camp here. So sometimes principals would love to have us, and it's out of their hands because they're having to host something else in their space, and they're not able to accommodate us. But we're constantly building those relationships with schools and with principals to try to get into spaces whenever we can. Sometimes we'll even have parents advocating for us as well. That's always a good one too. We'll hear from a lot of parents. They're like, please come to our school, please come to our school. And so we're like, tell the principal, help us get in there. So that's always good too when we hear from the parents who want us to come in their community.
And Jennifer, there's two things I'd like to add to that. Is one, geography works well. So like where we have schools right next to our buildings, like Abbott's Creek, Barwell Road, Briar Creek, they're just easy ones.
Yeah.
Or like where, the geography piece. Now, the one that I'm going to shift to Beverly is one of the challenges we have is we actually rent the space. And we're you're right through, just like I would do the same thing. So Wake County comes to me and wants to rent my athletic fields, and I charge them to use that space. And so the hard part for us, because of the way the pricing policy comes out with Wake County Public School System, for year-round schools, it's actually pretty affordable for us to go in for year-round schools, but it still becomes a limitation of resources and how much of our budget we have to rent. Camps are getting a little bit more challenging because they're in a different fee structure for the purpose of what we're using spaces. So that does create some challenges, and that's where we usually put some of our higher end summer camps, because we got to offset some of that direct cost to deliver the service.
Yeah, that makes sense. But as kind of a follow-up, I think it was the CAPS program that you showed the map of which ones are free for after school and then which ones were paying, as I remember. And it seemed like all the free ones were just sort of inside the Beltline. And then there were ones that you would have to pay for an after school program outside. Has there been any look at that as people are starting to move further out and we're seeing the migration of folks that don't necessarily have a lot of money having to move to the suburbs to afford housing? Does it make sense to move some of that, those resources out further for free aftercare?
I can jump in here too. And it looks like Ken's ready to go too, but
I just want to let you guys go before I say something.
But I can say through my time here that, those CAP sites are locations that have constantly evolved. There might be one here this year, and based on the registration or the need, it shifted to another location. A few years back, we relocated one of the programs that I believe was at Tarboro Road, and the registration just the interest and the registration wasn't there, so we were able to shift that program and that funding up to Green Road Community Center a couple years back. So we do look at those pieces, and we are, shifting based on the need, and we're running those, in our facilities, and we're looking for spaces that are in, really walkable areas, because there is no transportation to or from school for those. So we're wanting to make sure that we're locating those that are relatively close to Wake County school bus stops, inside a community, a walkable area, so that we can get our participants there safely.
That's great. Thank you. I figured that would be the answer, but I'm glad to hear it. Thanks. And I echo Dave's comments earlier. You guys run great programs. It's the best deal in town. We would always scramble and get up at 5 a.m. to register our kids as well. And then I have a selfish last question, which is, when does your counselor in training program begin? At what age? So I have a 12-year-old.
So that one is actually in my past world. I had a lot to do with the counselor and training program. It was one of my favorite programs because I did spend a whole lot of time working through that in the past. So that one starts at 14. So we ask the participants are 14 prior to the first day of their camp. And we have an application process that when the camp brochure comes out, the information that shortly comes out via website and our other communication methods for you to apply for that position, go through a short interview process. And if you're selected, you'll go through about a week's worth of training and team building and leadership development type programming that'll lead you to a 40-hour like internship where you go in and you're providing that volunteer assistance as one of our support staff people. So it's one of those programs that I'm super passionate about. So just a couple more years for you.
Yeah, well, and have you considered lowering that age? Because she has applied to Marbles, and I know there's a shortage of staffing. So Marbles, I guess, does do it at 12. So just heads up.
Yes, so we have, I will add that, and I'd have to go back and look, but we did add recently within the last 2 or 3 years, a leadership and training program that we're trying to develop as kind of a feeder into our CIT program that is aimed at some younger ages. I want to say that one starts at 13, but I'd have to go back and look. It may be 12 that we run out of Forest Ridge, and we've also run out of the Thomas G. Crowder Woodland Center in years past.
It is 13, Kent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at least it's a year, right?
That's right. Thanks.
So Jennifer.
Yeah, Ken and then Dr. Love. Yes, Ken, go ahead.
It's interesting you bring that up because I was watching Beth cringe over there as we talked about ages because we got into hiring more 16-year-olds in our summer camp. And it's great. It's also 16-year-olds because I have one. And I'm like, wow, you're in charge of kids because you're still a kid. So, but we have a wonderful training program that we're able to get them through, but it's still kids with kids. That wasn't my comment. I wanted to circle back because it's one of the challenges we had with that CAPS program, the TOPS program, is really our after school. And as Kent were thinking about the presentation, we have a great relationship with Wake County Public School System, but one of the challenges of a growing city is we used to be able to coordinate transportation routes. And if the bus was coming by the community center, they would drop the kids off at after school, Laurel Hills. Some of those other sites had very vibrant after school programs, but as bus routes got more challenged because they were moving more kids on a daily basis, they got to the point where there was fewer and fewer opportunities for them to be able to do that. So I'm glad to hear that Kent really stressed the walkability. And the one that always pops to my mind is Tarboro Road. And a lot of the kids at Tarboro Road go to school out in the Leesville school district. Well, that's a pretty good ride before we had this many people living in town. And now, so that's the other part is we got to modify our CAP schedule to make really sure we're there when the kids need the service so that they have a place to go when they come by. So it's an ever moving target that we have to evaluate every year. And I love that Raleigh's growing, but that growth also brings some other operational challenges that we're kind of constantly pivoting on.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Dr. Love, go ahead.
I just wanted to commend the staff on the excellent programs they've been having over the years. Aaron loved going to Biltmore for a number of years. He's now 13, going to be 14 next month. So he goes to the teen center on Tarboro Road. He loves it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good. That's good to hear.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you all so much and for answering all our questions and for the work you do. Very appreciated.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity for us to be here to talk with you about the youth programs that we're so passionate and excited for.
Yeah, it's great. It's great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Have a great night, you guys.
Bye-bye. So we have a pretty short agenda tonight. That was our only presentation. So we're going to move into the director's report now.
Thank you. I think there was minutes that needed to be approved or no? Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a short director's report this evening. The first one being at City Council this past Tuesday, February 15th. We had the work session where staff and the consultant presented council the Greenway master plan update, just to provide them some information on where we're at, the same information that you all received at their last park board meeting. Basically received great feedback from council. They're all very excited about the update progress so far, as well as some of the amended feedback that was added into the update from our various boards, commissions, and so forth. And so staff is planning to go back to council sometime in mid-March to go ahead and get formal approval from them for the master plan. So just want to say thank you for all the work that our various subcommittees as well as a full board put in on advancing this forward. And so we're very excited. So thank you for that. Second, in the afternoon session, we had a presentation by the Swing Group. And if you all don't know, this is the lease that Ken has been working on for at least 3 years, at least, with Swing, which is a Triangle Racket Sports, to lease a 48-acre piece of city-owned property up in Mount Herman Road up in Northwest Raleigh, to basically kind of turn into a racket and sport facility. So in 2018, council had approved that conceptual site plan to advance, but since then, COVID hit and there's been some changes in user preferences and so forth. And so they've had to make some modifications to their site plan as well as what their master plan is going to be. So representatives from Swing just basically wanted to give council a review of the history of the project, updated site plan, and a review of the primary updates to the project. So council did go ahead and approve and authorize the city manager to execute the amended and restated ground lease for that. And that's also another project that the council is very excited about, because it is going to provide much needed relief as far as pickleball courts, and we all know that pickleball courts are a high demand item here, but also provide some additional opportunities for other forms of racket sports for the community, such as padel, which is, I think, the fastest growing racket sport internationally, but also additional opportunities for tennis, and other racket sports. And so we hope that they'll be gaining some momentum soon, and hopefully, fingers crossed, may be doing some groundbreaking towards the end of this year, if all goes well and the economy goes ahead and supports that. Couple of additional items here. Y'all may know that council did approve an appointment to this board. Kara Strang was approved by council this last board council meeting. So she will likely start her term on this board at the March meeting. And also there has been a nomination submitted for other vacancy, but that still needs to go to council in March for final vote and approval as well. Another item that came up during this past council meeting, y'all may have heard that council did vote to return to in-person meetings in March, but that was specifically for city council. We as a board and commission will return in April, if all goes well. So we're going to be seeking additional guidance as far as what type of restrictions or other safeguards they will be putting in place once we do return to in-person meetings. But like I said, council in March, we will return in April. And then lastly, kind of wanted to put a plug in that PRCR will be celebrating Earth Day 2022 on April the 22nd at Dix Park. The theme is going to be Invest in Our Planet, and it's going to be held, like I said, Dix Park from 6 p.m. To 8 p.m. There will be information booths and activities. And then the night will culminate with a movie that kind of discusses the importance of pollinators to our environment. So right now, I just wanted to go ahead and put that as a placeholder on y'all's calendar. We will provide more information as we get closer to the date and finalize the program. But we're also very excited about celebrating Earth Day. And hopefully by then, we will be a full-blown biophilic city. And from what I understand, Scott submitted the application and payment this afternoon. So we're just going to be in the waiting phase. So thank you all for all your work. And thank you, Scott, for spearheading this. So we'll just be waiting patiently by the mailbox, like a kid that had just applied to college, waiting for the results. So other than that, that's all I have for the report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great job, Scott. That's exciting. Beverly, go ahead.
I wanted to recap on the swing project. My recollection is that is a group that is privately raising the capital funds for that, and it does not involve city capital dollars. That
is correct. Yes. Plus, we will be receiving revenue from the lease each year, and so just out of context, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's $200,000 a year lease, and then there is going to be an annual escalator for that. So it is going to be a great source of revenue for our department.
And will the department be able to do programming there or have access to? I know initially it was a lot of tennis and.
Yes, there will be publicly accessible recreation amenities within the complex, and it's also going to be an open concept where they will be anybody can participate. They will also have opportunities where they may have financial assistance programs and also do some outreach, but it is a private venture though, but there are going to be plenty of opportunities for anybody to participate.
It's a great undertaking, so thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Great. Any other questions for Oscar? Okay. Oscar, could you tell me again the name of the new appointee to the board? I didn't quite.
Kara Strang.
Strang.
Yeah, the last name is Strang.
Okay, great.
And I believe Malay asked about the date for the Earth Day event at Dix Park. It's going to be April the 22nd.
Okay, thanks, Giovanna. Okay, great. So we'll move on then to committee reports. First committee is Parks. Christina, do you have a report?
I do. We met at the first week of the month, and we are trucking along on our Welcome to Raleigh series. Our first event is actually going to be, fingers crossed, I know we haven't heard back, but Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be in April with the Raleigh Youth Council. So their egg hunt that I was asking about earlier, we were actually going to be there to participate and help them with that. And it'll be our first event, and that'll be in District A because it's at Abbott's Creek, letting people know that about the Greenway. And so I'm going to put together a document so that we can send out. We definitely want board representation on there. I'm going to be at every single one, but if we're in your district, we'd love to see you there, just out there answering questions and helping us further help people who are new to the area or new to our park system understand what we do and what Raleigh parks are about. So that's our first event. We had solidified the rest of them. We're in the process of May is hopefully going to be a bike ride on the Greenway from Shelley Lake to Optimist in partnership with BPAC on the Greenway. So hopefully that is what we are looking to do for our May event. June will be a Juneteenth event over at Chavis Park. And then we're going to take July and August off. And we're trying to find out because Method will be our August, but it might be the last weekend in August, depending on how hot it is. That will be our District D. And then our final one will be in Lake Lynn. And that will be a Halloween event in October. So please, I will put that all together. I will send it out to the board. Please help us sign up, come join us as we get closer to the election. So once we pass the summer, our last two events, we'll definitely want to be educating our residents on the parks bond and what's important and what's, so we definitely need some support from the board in those specific events, but I will have more information after this month and I will make sure to get that out to everyone.
Awesome. Great job, Christina. This is exciting. This is really fun.
I'm super excited. And thank you to staff. They have helped me so much understand what is feasible and they have made it work and made it possible. So I appreciate all of their hard work.
Very cool. Anyone have any questions for Christina?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, great. Well, we'll move on then, Lindsay, to the Fletcher Awards.
Hi, everybody. So we met last week on February 8th. And Mary has been contacting the folks, all of our award winners. And so she will be letting us know if any, once she's been able to reach everybody. So for those on the committee, we would like you to sign up by March 4th. You would have received that email in your inbox from Mary. It's a Google Doc spreadsheet. And then after that, after the committee has had their chance to select their person that they will be part of the presentation, would really love if everybody on the board could take a name and we could fill in those gaps so that we're all represented as much as possible if you're available, of course. There will be a ceremony May 10th at the Duke Energy Center for Performing Arts at 7 p.m. And it'll be a really great time and wonderful to, celebrate all the volunteer work and some good things for a change. So want to just give you the heads up that after March 4th, you'll hear from me and I'll be asking if folks can take a name and connect with somebody so that we can recognize them at the ceremony on May 10th. But otherwise, that's it. We had a great time, very inspirational. And that's all.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, it was a great meeting. There's always so many wonderful folks that are nominated. It's really great to see. Beverly, do you have a question?
Yeah, last year our nominees everything was virtual, and so they don't get the cake and cookies kind of event. And I didn't know whether you were going to invite them or include them in any way. They did get, they got a ceremony. It just wasn't the typical Fletcher Award ceremony, and I didn't know whether that was something you all had thought about.
We hadn't discussed that, but happy to circle back and float that by and see what the possibility is if we could invite them and they can still be part of that somehow.
That's a nice question. Yeah. I guess typically the previous recipients are not invited back because it would just get too huge. So, but yeah, that might be an exception that could be worth considering. It's interesting. And Lindsay, did you want to talk to or speak about Mark Turner's point that he brought up earlier today about the committee? Yeah, I won't take it.
Yeah, so we were able to award pretty much everybody that fit into the categories, and we had a couple folks. So it just didn't quite work out where everybody we felt like deserved the recognition, and there were so many who really do deserve to be recognized, but like there were a couple kind of like extras. So we pondered I like that Mark sent this email. Mark used to be on the Parks Board, and I invited him back to help us for the selection process. So Mark and Scott Reston, who used to be on the Parks Board, they joined us last week as well. And Mark's suggestion, I'm trying to find my email, but he had basically suggested, I love the creativity when we put our heads together, if we did some kind of like committee award or something. So it'd be something kind of a spinoff essentially.
It was sort of a catch-all is because we often struggle that there's an extra person or two that, gosh, we'd love to give them an award too, but there's just no more categories. It's all been filled by the person that seemed more appropriate for that particular category, but it doesn't mean that person's not deserving. And so it was sort of the idea of, well, maybe there's a committee award that could just be like, the committee feels like this person should get an award. And that's it.
Yeah. So I found it. Yeah. Upon hearing the difficulty we had recognizing everyone, suggestion Parks institute some kind of committee award that future committees could use to bestow irrespective of the nominated category. How could we make this happen?
Yeah. And we often cheat it by, we break down the award categories into two different categories. So we'll have like a group that gets, financial contributor best for the group, and then individual financial contributor, that's kind of been our cheat in the past few years to try to get around that so that we can give a couple more awards in categories, but sometimes it just doesn't work that well. So that I thought that was an interesting idea. And, he brought it up with Mary. So, we can, if the board thinks it's a good idea, we could kind of pursue that with Mary and see if there is a way to do that. And I see Sally's hand up, so Sally might have great insight.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that, but just channeling Mary and thinking about the length of the ceremony and making it enjoyable and palatable for all. Every time you add another category, you definitely lengthen the amount of time that you're there. So that was just something I knew she would say if she was here this evening.
Good point. And it does, it also, is it watering it down if we keep being like, everyone gets an award, maybe it's just, okay, try again next year.
It might be that. Yeah. But thanks for bringing that up, Jen.
Yeah. Okay. Unless anyone else has any thoughts or comments on that, we will just move on. Greenway Committee, Beverly, you guys didn't meet, right?
No, but I did want to say that I watched the BPAC presentation that was made by the consultant and staff. And thank you to Christina for, she was specifically asked to sort of give the conversation and discussion from the Parks Board, and she did a great job on carrying that forward. So I really appreciated that. And then I also watched the presentation to council, and I have to say, it's a very different presentation. It's a lot of the same information, but with more in depth. And so it was good. And council's responses were positive. And, I think Nicole Stewart said, more promotion, more thinking big here. And I thought that was a great takeaway. So thank you.
Great. Christina, when we get to your liaison report, I'd be interested to hear what BPAC had to say about the Greenway Master Plan. Marcia, do you have a report for sustainability, wildlife, and urban trees?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So we were hoping that Zach Manor could do a presentation about a program that we've been discussing in our committee about special trees. So I guess we will hold that for next month. I see that Zach's here, but we're coming to the end of the meeting. So
I think that this is the time that you can bring that forward, actually, Marcia. What I understand is that last month we talked about the whatever it's called, special tree of the year or the month, and that this month we need to, as a board, basically say, yes, we want to go forward with this.
Good. So Zach, it's yours to tell people about the special trees program that we've been discussing.
Okay, certainly. I have some slides, but I also talk about this a lot, so I'm happy to do either one. Talked a little bit about this last month, but as we're piloting a Tree of the Year in Raleigh, and this is a way for citizens to submit trees that you can see from the right-of-way or located on city property to nominate for Tree of the Year. Since we spoke last time, I've met with our communication and marketing staff to kind of lay out the plan. So our initial goal was to have this wrapped up by Arbor Day. We're shooting for either the last week in March or the first weekend in April. So that would be I believe the 23rd or the 2nd. That's to coordinate with a planting we're doing as part of a donation we received from the, a tree planting donation we received. So it's a corporate group. We haven't figured out who that is yet, but they're working through the North Carolina Urban Forest Council to provide us with some money, some funding, and 30 volunteers from their business. So until they get back to us, we don't know who that is yet, but we have some mystery benefactors. So that's kind of what we're going to set up as our Arbor Day event, to plant some trees around the Walnut Creek Wetland Center, the Carnage Road, kind of South Street, that general vicinity, do some replacement trees for lost to the emerald ash borer, as well as some street trees. So that event's pretty exciting, but that's a little off subject there. But so the goal here is to have a Tree of the Year, and the path setup is a week of, and this is from our marketing folks, basically a week of information to the public saying, hey, this is coming up. They'll have a week to nominate their trees, and that's basically city will create a form that they can upload a picture, talk about why they want to select the tree, why they think it should be the Tree of the Year, give some general location info, and make that nomination. And then ultimately, citizens will vote on candidates as long as they're appropriate. We know sometimes with online submissions that things can change a bit, I guess, from the original intent. So the hope there is that voting for a week and then being able to select a Tree of the Year that we're going to post on the city website through our social media channels and in coordination with Arbor Day. So that's kind of the brief synopsis I gave. I talked a little bit about last week. I'm happy to answer some questions, show you the presentation if you want, but I also want to respect your time as well. So let me know if you have questions. And
thank you, Zach.
Great, thank you. I'll be interested to see if we get hundreds of nominations or if 10 come in here. Yeah. It's fascinating. Great. Anyone have any questions? Oh, Lindsay, go ahead.
I'm really excited about this. So this is really happening like in 2 months. Like we're kicking it off this year.
Yes, that's the intent as the pilot. So this year is kind of to see what kind of response we get. So our marketing folks don't need a lot of lead time. So we've been working a little bit behind the scenes, hopeful that you all would support what we're doing, and that way we'd have it ready. And if we needed to ask you again, then we'd do that too. So yes, that is our hope, that we'll be starting to roll this out within the next couple of weeks with a winner selected by the beginning of April.
Okay. And I'm Googling it, but I'm not sure I'm getting it correctly. Is Arbor Day March 18th?
That's the state Arbor. Sorry.
When is it for Raleigh?
29th of April.
I was right. Okay. For some reason, that was in Nebraska. I was like, that doesn't make sense.
So typically the state Arbor Day is March 18th. That's what we put as a tentative date. The city usually selects a specific day based around some kind of neighborhood planting. So it isn't always the same day. So that's kind of what we'll be designating it as the day of the planting. So it'll either be that March 23rd or April 2nd based on this volunteer event.
Okay. I know 2 people who are already very excited about this tree nomination thing besides me. So thank you very much.
So how will the votes happen? Will it be an online voting? Is that? Yeah. So all the postings, submissions, and everything will be online. I apologize. I forget the name of the software that marketing uses, but it tallies tracks. Staff will take a look to make sure we don't get any inappropriate submissions, but it'll be able to track it all online. And then basically we'll post those photos
with the descriptions. People will be able to vote. It'll tally everything for us and let us know who won.
Great. Sounds good. So at this point, Oscar, Giovanna, do we need to take a vote as the board on whether we would like to move forward with this project? Is that okay?
Yes.
So do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve this initiative.
Thank you, Marcia.
Second.
Thanks, Lindsay. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, seeing none, it passes unanimously. Great, thank you. Thanks so much, Zach. I'm looking forward to it.
And what marketing uses Wish Pond.
Never heard of that. Okay, Wish Pond. Great. Anything else, Marcia?
No, folks, if you haven't found a committee that feels like a good fit for you, we really would enjoy having your presence on our committee. It's very active and lively and passionate folks that are interested in urban wildlife and urban trees and having a sustainable city. So join us. We're meeting next Tuesday, 4:00. We usually meet on Mondays, but because of President's Day, we've moved it over one day to 4:00 on Tuesday.
Right. I got to say, these committees are getting things done. I'm impressed. Very good. Well, next we have Devereaux Meadow Park. Is there any report from, I guess at this point, it's just you, Christina. Was there any meeting?
Just me. No, there has not one that I have heard of, but I will go back and look again because I know that there's an open house. They're taking public input right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, thank you, Stephen, for saving me behind on this because I'm not educated on that. I'm sorry.
We had an open house on Saturday with a lot of attendees, a lot of good input. It was outside of Halifax Center, so kind of relieved some of the stress of COVID. Yes, Christine's right. We're still collecting input with the goal of tentatively like summertime, bringing a concept back. We're taking this input, refine, come back to you, and then go to the council with the concept. And it's in the bond list. We don't know where the bond list is going to go, but yeah, so good open house on Saturday. A lot of good support and feedback on it being a very natural park, Greenway, creek restoration, overwhelming support for the concept. So
awesome. Lindsay, did you have something to add?
Well, I attended the open house on Saturday,
great.
And it was a really great time. And they had a steady flow of turnout, and really awesome how even just like all the consultants and vendors were there, and they're hearing their enthusiasm and dedication for the work as well. And just how this site started off as like a baseball field, and now it's a hub for city resources and vehicles and things like that. And now they're going to renovate that to make it into a place with history and stormwater management and all that. So it's a really cool location.
Yeah, and I see, Lindsay, you put the link in the chat. So if anyone has not taken the survey yet, please, look at that, take the survey and share it on all your social media sites and with all your friends. I've done that, and I've heard a lot of great feedback similarly from people.
Yes, that link has, it includes links to the project draft concept plan video and then the draft concept plan survey. And if you didn't know, it's just a placeholder name. I talked to Shasheen while I was there on Saturday. And so Devereaux Meadow is just a placeholder name. They're looking for suggestions for new names. And now someone is very enthusiastically tweeting me suggestions of names. And I'm like, no, go to the link and contribute them there. So share the link for the survey, but also the project background.
That was going to be my last. Thank you, Lindsay. Was that we're openly looking for how we can memorialize a new name for the space. So that I didn't mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, I love how the city's getting out ahead of that, in front of that, and just saying, we know that this name's not appropriate for the park, and what does the community think would be a better name for the space? So that was great to see in the survey. Good deal. Okay, well, now we're to liaison reports. So Carol, you're up first with Arts Commission.
Hi, I was unable to attend the Arts Commission meeting that was this past week, a few days ago. But so I wrote the executive director, Sarah Powers, and provided her a report for her to do whatever she wanted to do with in my absence. And 2 minutes before our meeting that we're in right now started, I saw that she had replied with some information that I can share with you. So rather than trying to multitask, at which I am hopeless, I am going to take the information that she gave me and write it up, condense it, and submit it to Giovanna for an attachment that we can all look at when our next meeting happens.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Next up is BPAC. Christina.
Yes, BPAC was the week after our last meeting. So the notes that I took, I've misplaced, but I'm going to go off memory and we're going to do it. It's going to be great. We had a great meeting. It was my 4th time seeing the presentation of the Greenway Master Plan. And they were so nice. They made mention. They were like, Christina, you've seen this a lot. I was like, it's cool. I love it. And what I mentioned in feedback to BPAC from us was what I appreciated as the board member was seeing the different iterations and watching them take our feedback and make changes. And we really appreciated that and really felt strongly. There are some things we talked about lighting, and we talked about how they represent us on or represent the Oak City trails, and they really, I felt, did a great job of taking that feedback and turning it into action. And so I wanted to make sure that BPAC knew that. We did reference the lighting on the Greenway trails was important to us, so as not to affect wildlife. And the other thing outside of the Greenway Master Plan, because that was fantastic. I just loved that whole process. What I wrote down was the street. What was it? It was the sidewalk program. So there used to be a sidewalk program where residents could petition council to add a sidewalk to their neighborhood. And there were currently, I think, 5 to 7, because I think 2 of them were not a sidewalk, that are not funded. And so it's about $7 million that the program has been closed from what they said. And I don't know if that's 100% correct, but when I was listening, I was kind of shocked that those resident petitioned program for improvements in their area had been stopped. And so that caught my attention as part of the meeting. I wasn't able to stay for the last portion of it, but they're doing great work, and we will continue to be a presence. They want to be a larger presence with us. They sit on our Greenway committee, and they're very interested in our feedback and want to partner, which is why with the Parks Committee, we definitely want to enhance that partnership with BPAC by doing this bike ride, and hopefully we'll be able to put it together for May. But I'm in the process of speaking with their new vice chair, Nick Neptune, and Dwight Otwell, their chair, and how we can do things together. I know Nick Neptune sent us what they want to do as an organization in terms of cleanup, because he participated last year with us in our cleanup of the Wetland Center. So I'm interested to see what they do and how we can amplify their voice as well. So it was a great meeting.
Great, thank you. Marcia, do you want to jump in real quick and edit a statement there or clarify something?
Yes. The Sustainability, Wildlife and Urban Trees Committee will meet Monday. I was under the impression that it was the city employees had a holiday on Monday, but I've been corrected. I stand corrected. So, if you're interested in joining us, please let Scott or Sally know that you want to be receive the agenda, and we're happy to have new voices and points of view in the mix. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcia. Any questions for Christina about BPAC? And I'll just echo that, I've talked to Nick Neptune quite a bit, and they're definitely interested in coordinating with us and, trying to work with us more closely, which is great. I think we have a lot of areas of overlap that make a lot of sense for us to talk more and coordinate more. And certainly in these, I'll talk more about it in the chair report, but in the upcoming volunteer opportunities, those are great ways to do that. Okay, anything else? No. Next, Historic Cemeteries Commission. Sally, do you have a report? I lost you. There you are. Okay.
I was muted. No report. I guess maybe I will just say that they have their next meeting the 24th of March. It'll be the fourth Thursday, sorry. Will be their next board meeting. And they did a historic cemeteries tour last week, and we got to go out to Dix Park, and they got to meet Janet Cowell, which was really cool. She's the CEO and say correctly of the Conservancy. And got to see all the cemeteries, and it just kind of pumped everyone up. It was a beautiful winter day, and got to be in those beautiful special places and learn more about the people that are there. So a really significant part of Raleigh's history. So that was great. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Sally? Okay. Next is the Dix Leadership Committee. So we met, I think it was the week after our last board meeting, so it's been a little while. And there were a couple presentations. One was on studying marbles, the Kids Museum, as an anchor for the Dix Park to go somewhere there. So they had some consultants that were doing some studies to see if they could fit the square footage that they would like to have and the parking that they need, and look at some potential sites for that. So that was an interesting presentation that I assume is public and is up somewhere on the website. You can find it if you'd like to. I can find it and send it out later if anyone's interested in looking at it. Nothing, of course, is confirmed. No contracts are signed, but it's just a study at this point. And then they also, city staff presented the Lake Wheeler Road study to show where they're at with that, and what those road improvements will look like and when that will happen. And as I think you've heard, their funding was sort of found in order to upgrade Lake Wheeler Road, because the thought is that really needed to be be a priority with the Dix Plaza and Play coming online soon. But the one thing with that is that it's just not going to work out with timing. It will not be done before the Plaza and Play. And the leadership team was really pushing hard to try to see if there was some way to speed that process up. And they were really told in no uncertain terms that it's just not possible, but it'll be close. It'll be, probably about a year behind. So the idea is that there will be some temporary measures of kind of how to get to Plaza and Play while Lake Wheeler's under construction, and lots of clear signage, I'm sure, and lots of clear understanding, the education that, don't worry, Lake Wheeler will be open and this will all be really great. So it'll just be a sort of year of a little bit not as coordinated as would be great, but it's okay. Stephen, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, you were spot on. There were two heavy presentations. It's a lot of content to cover, but yeah. I can take any detailed questions.
Yeah. Beverly, go ahead.
Two questions. One, on Lake Wheeler Road, did the plans include bike lanes and really good protected, not just a white stripe, but maybe something a little bit more cutting edge and protected?
It's an excellent question, and the cross section has come out of about 2 years of work with the Dick's Edge study that the planning department did. So it'll be a 2-lane. So we're not going to 4-lane, 2-lane divided road, likely a planted median. On the park side, it will be a 10-foot wide bikeway and a 4-foot wide, maybe 6-foot walkway. So we're basically taking all of the right of way out of the park. So those homes that are there and all the development there, we're basically taking it out of the park side. And then on the housing side, it will be your standard 6-foot sidewalk. So on the park side, there will be bike and then separated walk.
Well, you mentioned not taking away those houses. And while if I thought that those houses were going to remain as affordable housing, I would think that was really a great thing. Yeah. However, I was riding down there last week and there's already massive amounts of destruction is the only word I can come up with. And so those houses won't be there in 6 months probably. And so why would we not take a larger or preserve some greater amount of right-of-way on that side, presuming, as I think is a safe presumption, that will be a pretty massive development there, and it won't be low-income or affordable housing in 6 to 8 months. So that would be, I know that's planning, and transportation is not really a parks issue, but I kind of hate to see parks, giving up at more square inches of the of a very limited resource in the park and not letting the developer contribute on the other side.
Yeah, well, I can help you with that. We're actually not, because we're building the infrastructure for bike ped within a Duke easement, so we can't do anything park related there anyway. And if we want to do the road project, we already talked about like a year delay. In order to negotiate with like 70 landowners over the next year to find and negotiate right of way, it'd probably extend the project another year, because every one of those we would either negotiate individually or go through an eminent domain process. So 6 to 8 months isn't really an accurate forecast for that to redevelop. There's 2 developments right now going on. The rest is single family rentals. So we'd have to negotiate with everyone on acquiring the right of way for their property.
I'll put a wager on how long their single family.
Yeah, I'd say 6 to 8 months is not an accurate forecast.
No, it may not be that, but it won't be long. Yeah. But my other question, and maybe to Stephen, maybe to Jennifer, and that's the first I'd heard of Dick's of Marbles relocating to Dick's, and the word that you mentioned there that really triggered for me was parking, because there's a fair amount of parking allocated for the park and play. Are we going to put a cap on what percentage of parking we're going to have at Dick's Park? Is there a number that's being discussed for?
So I'll jump in first, Stephen. I'll let you get to the technical bit, but I'll just want to say that parking was probably one of the bigger things we talked about at that meeting after that presentation. And it's funny because, some of us are looking at it and going, do we really need more parking? And can't we have shared parking? And, isn't there a way to share some of what Marbles needs with all the parking that was in the master plan for, concert goers? And I think there is an opportunity for that. But the consultants did also point out that they also have gotten a lot of feedback that there's probably not enough parking in their master plan to really support a lot of the activities that are planned out there in the programming. So I think, parking definitely, it's always a hot button item, and it always drives design. Sadly, it comes first figure out the parking, and then we'll figure out everything else. So, yeah.
It's so ironic because we talk about the Greenway system being a transportation corridor, and then that's sort of on our right hand, and on our left hand, we talk about we have to provide for cars, and so we're hypocritical and a little schizophrenic.
Well, and I think that's just Americans for you. But one thing that I think was great was that the Lake Wheeler section, like Stephen said, they decided to go with 2 lanes, whereas it originally was thought to be 4. And they said it themselves, the transportation folks, that when you design bigger, more cars come and it just fills up the lanes. And so, they were very careful and mindful of that, and just had the 2 lanes, and then, have designed the bike path and the separate pedestrian path. So mobility definitely was considered, the multiple ways for mobility. But Stephen, do you have anything you want to?
You covered it well. Beverly, you're right. We talk about parking and toilets a lot in parks. So and trail. But your comments about Lake Wheeler, so it is, how can the city be assertive with private development across the street to say, if you have structured parking, people will be using it 8 to 4. So can we use that in the evenings for things like marbles or the concerts? It's a pretty big endeavor to undertake marbles in this park, and there'll be a lot of discussion. What we're doing is really just looking at the feasibility of doing it. Jennifer, the chair, was very, very accurate to say this is just discussion. There is no agreements at all, and a lot of people above all of us here will have to make those decisions on whether that's the right move or not. So.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thanks, Stephen, for jumping in. So next we have the Historical Resources and Museum Advisory Board. I have a few things I'll highlight from that meeting. That meeting was on January 26th, so also the week after our last meeting, so it's been a little while. I sent out that video, the link to the Rediscovering the Legacy of John Hunter. So I hope that some of you were able to look at it. Carol, thanks for the comments. I thought that was really interesting to really see more about the legacy of, some of the people that had lived in the city long before us and made a big impact. Let's see, at Mordecai, this is the 50th anniversary of the opening of Mordecai Park. It opened in April of 1972. So they're going to be having some celebrations and things going on this year. I think in the fall is when they're really targeting their celebrations for that. There's new lights at the carousel at Pullen. So if you haven't driven by yet on Western, it's lit up, illuminates nicely. They've changed the staffing for running the carousel at Chavis. So now it's being run by the management staff at Chavis so that they can really have a better handle on that instead of being run by HRMAB staff, I guess, out of Pullen. So that they sort of changed that arrangement, which I think probably makes it function better and be able to be open more. They're finalizing the concert series for Pullen and Fletcher Park. So I'll be doing that again this year, which is exciting. The HRMAB, the board, is going to have a trolley tour and orientation. They have a lot of new members, and they're hoping to do that here just in a couple weeks. I don't think I've seen anything about that yet. So they were sort of holding that date. And then this, I might need a little bit of staff help on this because I had missed a meeting and wasn't quite following what was going on. But the John P. Top Green Center, which a lot of us are familiar with, that is near Chavis, there's an external stakeholder group from the community that includes Spurna, people from HRMAB, Chavis users, business leaders. They're creating an exhibit and creating content. But from what I understand, it's a temporary exhibit until the permanent exhibit is installed with the bond. I see Scott nodding, so maybe I got that right. Thanks. And what else? They did a film for their volunteer awards. They did not do them in person this year. And that is going to be shared on social media and on RTN, City of Raleigh, YouTube, etc. I don't know if that's come out not yet or not. I don't remember seeing anything. Those were some of the highlights. Any questions about any of that? Okay, great. Seeing none, we will move on to the chair report. I'll keep it brief. So, the main couple things were that I wanted to point out the links that were sent out for the volunteer cleanups on the greenways. So we have one that BPAC invited us to attend with them that they had already planned, which is February 26th. So that's coming up soon. And Giovanna put the link in the agenda so you can see it there. And I'll plan to go. I hope to see you there. It's at Anderson Point Park. And then we also sent out a link for the Parks Board for an invasives cleanup. We had talked about doing that as a group. And that I basically said to them, you tell us where you need the most help, and that's where we'll go. And so Lee suggested Kiwanis Park. And so we're going to meet at the Crabtree Creek Greenway near Kiwanis Park on March 5th from 9 to 12. And we've invited the Raleigh Youth Council to join us. So we've already heard that there's quite a few that are going to be able to come. So that would be great. Of course, they have to have a chaperone if they're under a certain age. So had to make sure that all made sense. And so that link, I can send that back out again, just so you have that. So please sign up if you can make that one. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was the idea of an annual retreat for us. Like I just mentioned for Historic Resources Board, they're doing a retreat / orientation for new members. We tend to do one every other year. And so we're due for one, I think. And especially with everything being virtual, there's a lot of new-ish members that, haven't been able to really meet face-to-face. And then a lot of even newer members that it'd be a good time for us all to get together, learn a little bit more about the park system, get to know each other a little bit better, and kind of learn our role a little bit better. So that's something that I'll continue talking with Giovanna and Oscar about, but wanted to get kind of the temperature of the board if that was something that people are interested in doing. I think typically we do that in the early summer, but we could probably be flexible on that. And I see, okay, Sal, some comments in the chat. Okay, okay, Malay and then Beverly.
Yeah, well, I will be there for the March 5th volunteer event. The question I had was, I'm trying to recruit some of my family members and friends to come join me, but it's going to be ad hoc and, last minute decisions from them. Would it be okay if I just brought them along at the last minute?
I think so. They usually have additional forms to fill out, to sign the waiver. The only reason I hesitate is because Mary Owens, who is, heading this all up, mentioned there's some event happening at Kiwanis that day, so parking may be limited. So it's just something, but they have on-street parking, so we can, do our best to make it work. Yep.
Yeah,
so yes.
Is there an age limit where we want to have volunteers not be under a certain age limit? Can I recruit my 7-year-old to come and help us?
Sally, do you want to answer that? Do you know the answer to that one? I can look it up in my email. I think I have it.
I think it's 12.
That's what I was thinking too, but I've heard of people bringing younger children. Christina, didn't you bring younger children? Okay.
So I would recommend 12, but no one's going to turn you away. And as long as you're keeping an eye on your kids, it's probably fine.
Okay.
Yeah, to the tree planting last November, I brought my 6 and my 7-year-old as a surprise on accident. It was a last minute deal and they were amazing. They helped me and they were phenomenal.
So sounds like it's all good, as long as there's a chaperone.
Yep.
Anything else, Malay?
Oh, so thank you.
Okay, thanks. Beverly?
I was just going to point out, specific to parking, that accessing the Crabtree Greenway there at Kiwanis Park, there are really two options. If you put in Google Maps, it'll take you to Kiwanis Park there at, I forget the name of the road, but right by Joyner. But also you could come in off of Anderson Drive at Oxford Road and there's access to the Greenway there. It's right by, what's the Our Lady of Lourdes Church, so you can park along there too. And so, and if anybody brings their bikes to either of these, either riding your bike or otherwise, I'll be glad to give you a little tour down the Greenways.
Thanks, Beverly. Yeah, that's a good point. So you could help with the parking situation by maybe parking over there and walking over. Good point. Or ride your bike, even better. I need to get back on mine. After I broke my elbow 2 years ago, I've been a little hesitant, but it's time.
I broke my elbow 2 years ago too.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Well, then that's it. Anyone have anything they'd like to share with the group for the good of the group? Dr. Love, go ahead.
If you haven't been able to get to see the exhibit, Black History exhibit and that history of the park, it's outstanding. I've been 3 times. It's so much information. It takes a while to grasp it out, but that's excellent. Also, for Black History Month, Chavis Community Center has a series of activities that are going on and well attended. So I wanted to point that out and appreciate what the staff is doing there. The carousel was mentioned, and when I was over there last Thursday, I think I remember seeing an out of order sign on the carousel there. Is there something going on with the Chavis carousel?
At Chavis, the carousel is saying out of order again.
I believe that's what it was saying.
Okay, I don't know about that.
I can't hear Dr. Love. What was the question?
She was saying that the carousel at Chavis has an out of order sign on it the other day.
Thursday it did.
On Thursday.
Scott, do you know if anything about, or Ken, about out of order?
I don't. I'll follow up. Dr. Love,
Yeah.
I'll follow up for you.
We'll follow up.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's lots of activity, lots of use. I live right across from Dick, so people are using both the parks and facilities quite a bit, so I'm really pleased with that. And there's one other issue about Chavis. There's some retired school teachers that like to walk the track on the inside, and sometimes they're concerned about security because there's no staff upstairs, and they're concerned about the cleanliness of the track. So I just wanted to ask, are we going to get a custodial service that can do that? I hear all of this, so I bring it up to you.
Yeah.
Dr. Love, did you mention the indoor track that's upstairs to have a staff member up there? Okay, yes. I can get with Ken and we can take a look at that. Ken, in fact, he has her hand raised.
Well, the new custodian is scheduled to start the 24th. Is that correct? Today's 17th, so Monday will be the 21st. It would be this coming up, so the next payroll period. We've got him processed. We're just waiting to get next payroll period we can start. So he should be in there this month.
Thank you.
Yeah. I talk faster than I type.
Great. Any other comments? Okay. Well, having completed the agenda, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.